welcome to Moments with Breadhead. Sorry about the noise and confusion, but we are a working kitchen and an active food pantry, so you'll have to bear with a little noise. Today we've received a lot of beautiful produce from Social Justice Learning Center. We have cauliflower, onions, cucumber, and shishito peppers, and for this recipe I'm adding cilantro, garlic, Mexican crema, and that's it. So I got those at Mario Brothers next door, and let's get started with the salad or the topping because the rest of it is going to go in the oven. So I've preheated the oven at 375, no, that's not right, at 425 degrees, and we'll just make the sauce first and then we'll get into prepping the vegetables. I'm just going to start, we have the crema, and I'll use a little bit of cilantro now. Usually this is already washed and slightly dry, and I'm just going to take the cilantro bunch and rip off the ends, and I'll throw that in the bowl. I probably don't need this much, so I'll probably just set that part aside and move on from there. And I'll just chop up the cilantro. So this is not a knife skills video, so if you guys aren't comfortable with knives, I don't recommend just like gung-hoing into like chopping as fast as I'm chopping. Please check out our video on YouTube on knife skills to help you get a little better or learn how to use a knife properly. So I'm just going to chop it up. And then I'll add, I think I'm going to add all of this to the bowl. And I'm going to chop some garlic now. I'm going to make about I'm going to chop about 2 cloves. So garlic is something that people struggle with a lot. It's really, there's like all this paper, and then when you take off the paper, it can get really sticky when you have the actual garlic cloves. I'm gonna just show you how to, hold on one sec, I'm gonna get a paper towel, I'll be right back. Okay, so I had to get a wet paper towel so I could clean off my knife before I start chopping the garlic, so I'm just gonna do that. And I'll set that aside. I'll just keep using that to wipe off my knife when I need to. So with the garlic clove, I'm going to take the flat edge of the knife and my palm fingers definitely up away and just smash it down and just open the skin. This way, you don't like need those fancy things from Williams-Sonoma to do this. Just, then once it's smashed, you can easily peel it off. This one is a little rotten, so I'll cut that part off, but I'll use the rest of the clove. I'll just trim it because a lot of it actually has some brown spots. Wow, it's a noisy day today. It is like you guys are with us today in the kitchen. All right, so that's enough garlic, and I'll just chop that up and I'll add it to the sauce. Chop, chop, chop. It's pretty sticky right now. I think garlic actually gets stickier when it's hot outside, so this is like pretty sticky. But I'm gonna chop it pretty finely. This is something I usually don't like to use a garlic press because it releases all the oils and it makes garlic like super pungent, and I think it's too strong. But I might have used one for this case because you can just use 1 clove and add it, and it adds like a ton of flavor. But right now I think that like basically I chopped up the equivalent of a large clove, and I'll add that in. And then I'm just going to clean off the surface. And I'll add a little pepper. I'm not really measuring, just probably like a teaspoon of pepper. I'm going to add a little bit of oil, probably a teaspoon as well. A little paprika. So we're basically going to marry most of the ingredients that we're using to roast the food, the onion and the cauliflower, but we'll just add it to the salad. And then I'm going to use half of this cucumber, or maybe a quarter, just for a little bit of texture in the sauce. So I can save that, and I'll just take my trash bowl. It's really hard to think when like so many people are talking at the same time, but I hope you're following me. I'm just going to peel this cucumber. I think peeling is super satisfying to do. For some reason, I feel like I'm being super industrious when I do this. The skin on these cucumbers can be a little bitter. Persian cucumbers are the small cucumbers you find in the store. That skin is great. It's used for pickling and whatnot, but these cucumbers usually need to be peeled. So I'm going to just put a little bit in there, flat side down. You know, I think I'm going to cut it a few times and make smaller pieces. Just chop those up. You know what? As we're doing this right now, I have a totally different idea for this recipe. So I'm going to keep this the way it is, and I'm going to mix it up. And it can just sit like this. So it's just going to be like a topping for the food eventually. But I'm going to keep this. I'm going to grab another bowl, and I'm going to make a different kind of salad topping with the shishito peppers and the cucumbers. So I will be right back again. Okay, I got another bowl because I just changed my mind in the middle of cooking on what I actually wanted to do. I'm just going to save this, and I'm actually going to chop up a tiny bit more cilantro, just a little bit to add a little color and texture. And then we'll chop up the shishito peppers. We'll just use about 3. So shishito peppers are really delicious. They are kind of like hit or miss on whether or not they're going to be spicy, but they add a lot of crunch. You've seen in some of our videos, hopefully, that we just saute them quickly with some oil and soy sauce, and they're like a super delicious appetizer or whatever. Super high in fiber, really high in vitamin C, so they're kind of all around amazing. I'm going to slice them down the middle, and then I'll just try to slice them thinly and add them to this little concoction. I'm going to take out the parts with the big seeds. Okay. And then I'll add that to the bowl. So now we have essentially 2 toppings. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of apple cider vinegar. I like to add it to the cap and not directly to the bowl, just in case I overfill. So I did. I mean, that's way too much, so I'm going to pour a little back. Probably like half of a teaspoon, just to add a little flavor. A little salt. And pepper. And same, I mean, you just add what you like. It's really all about what you like, because it'll be in your kitchen with your tastes. And then if I had a lemon, I'd probably add lemon, but I'm just gonna add a little bit of olive oil and the salad will be done. Mix it up. All right, so that's done. I'm going to set that aside now, and we'll get into preparing the roasted cauliflower and the roasted onions. Heads up, I've never roasted onions before, so we're doing this together. It could be a nightmare, and it could be really great, so we'll see. I feel like if I had garbanzo beans, this would be really good to add garbanzo beans with. I also feel like this would be amazing with chicken on the barbecue. You could do so many things with this recipe, but this is just basically the building blocks of like anything else you'd want to add to it. So I'm going to start with the cauliflower. There are a few pieces that are brown, and I'm just going to shave those off just slightly until that doesn't look brown anymore. Cauliflower is perfectly good, but sometimes it oxidizes, sometimes it gets a little dirty. You just shave it off and you're good to go. And then I'll take, with the tip of my knife, I'll just go down to where I feel like is the end, and I'll just cut that off. And that's good. So you don't want to cut all the way off because we want to make kind of like a cauliflower steak. So we don't want the cauliflower to fall apart. So I'm just going to take off these little stems. And then I'll take my trash bowl and I'll just brush this off into the trash. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to make like large, thick slices, like a piece of steak kind of with your cauliflower. So hopefully a lot of the pieces won't fall apart. It gets super satisfying in the middle. I mean, that's a great piece to serve, but you can't get that slice with everything because the closer you get to the stem, the better it holds together. Otherwise, just do your best and try to make some even pieces. And we will set this aside. We'll take this over here. So I've just lined a baking sheet with parchment paper, and I'm going to add the cauliflower. So at 425, this cauliflower is going to bake in about 20 minutes. So we're going to make this, prepare this, and then we'll add the onions to the oven first, and then we'll come back halfway through and we'll add this in. But right now, because this is kind of like falls apart easily, you could toss vegetables in a bowl first when you're roasting them, which is way easier. But right now, I don't want the cauliflower to break, so I'm not doing that. I'm just going to add all of the stuff to the tray, a little salt, a little pepper, and then I'm going to add a lot of paprika to make a lot of color. You know, everybody has their own way of seasoning things, but basically, you know, just do it the way you want to do it. Get all of your flavors in there. There's already quite a bit of oil on the other side. I'm just going to add a little bit more. The more oil there is to anything you roast, the more it has a tendency to get like crispy and like that homemade, like almost like hash brown look. So I'm definitely going for that. I'm going to salt the ends again, and I'll just add a little more paprika. We'll see what happens with this. So I'm going to set this aside, and we'll get into the onions. So, cleaning as I go, because that's super important. Let's see how we're going to do this. Okay, so I'm going to chop it in half. First, I'm going to peel it. I think what I'll do is we will bake them like half of them. So I'm going to peel the onion first. I think I'll just slice it in half and then take off the wrapper. If it's super annoying to you, like it is to me, you can always cheat and just take off the first layer of the onion. A lot of the time, like with this one, the first layer is already, you know, onions are amazing because it protects every layer. The layer in front of it protects the layer behind it. So this one is a little damaged, and I'm just going to peel it off. You can just like kind of work it with your fingernails. There's not like a great science to peeling an onion, but at least we're not chopping it because we're not going to cry today. All right, so that's one. I'll set that aside, and I'll do the next one. I'm kind of excited to do this. I've never even thought about doing this before, but I think it'll be pretty good. And you know, onions are not expensive, and if you have a lot of them, motorcycles, people, there's so many things happening. If you have a lot of them, this is, I guess, a pretty good way of using them up before they go bad. So here we are down to our last onion. Gonna chop off the stems. And then I am gonna put these in a bowl. And I'm going to season them with oil, salt, pepper, same things we did. That's what I have on hand right now, and that's what I'm going to use. And you know, you'd be surprised how many things are delicious with just salt and pepper and garlic. It's pretty easy to like flavor your food with that. I'm gonna add a little bit of garlic powder to this. I don't love roasting with fresh garlic because I feel like a lot of times it burns. Maybe that's just me. And then some salt, and I'll just roll them around until they're like covered. Oh, I forgot the paprika, so we'll do that. All right, so they're all in there. We'll coat it all, and then we're gonna lay them face down on the baking tray. And we'll cover them, and we'll put them in the oven at 425 for like 20 minutes, and then we'll turn them over. And I think I'm going to wait, and I'm going to keep this when we turn the onions over. I'm going to drizzle this on top. So that's it. I'm going to put these in the oven, but first I'm going to wash my hands, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back with clean hands. I'm going to wrap this in tin foil, put it in the oven at 425. For about 20 minutes. We'll flip it, we'll drizzle it with the leftover juices, we'll put the cauliflower in, we'll check that, we'll do the whole thing, and then we'll plate. So I'm just gonna cover this. And pop it in the oven, and we'll be back to flip it. Okay, so we're back. It's been 20 minutes. I am putting this directly on a surface that can withstand high temperatures. Don't do that at home. If you take something out of the oven and you put it on something that doesn't withstand high temperatures, it could melt or burn or whatever, so just be careful about that. I have a tile at home, like an old bathroom tile that I usually use to do that. But right now we're fine. The onions are halfway cooked, and we'll flip them over, and then I'm going to put them and the cauliflower both in the oven at the same time, and they should cook at the same time. We'll see. So I'm just going to flip over the onions. And then I did save the sauce that we tossed them in, so I'll just add that on top. And then I can add some to the cauliflower too, because essentially we're working with a few ingredients only, and so it can make its way on almost everything we're using today. It's economical. Oh, but I'm gonna run out, so I'm just gonna do the onions. Okay, so I'm gonna put both of these in the oven for 20 to 25 minutes. I might flip the cauliflower halfway, but since I've done this in another video, I won't show you. I'll just show you the finished product when it's out of the oven. So, be right back. And we're back. We put everything in the oven for 20 more minutes, and it was done. I didn't even really need to turn over the cauliflower. It was cooked. 425 is a really hot temperature to like bake any vegetable. So as you can see, these onions, I'm super happy how they turned out. They're like, look caramelized, they look really cooked all the way through. And the cauliflower, because we use the same seasoning, looks pretty much the same. So let's plate it up. I'm not really sure how I feel like plating it, so I'm just going to add maybe one, maybe two. I'll put that there, and then maybe do like one onion. Push that in the center maybe. And then I'll set this aside. You know what I think I should have done? Because I don't know, like I haven't done this before, so plating is kind of how you feel artistically you want to. I'm going to put a little bit underneath, and then I'm going to put the onion back so it's under there. And then I I think I'll just add some to the side. Maybe some to the top, actually. Stir up my salad. This is going to be an interesting mix of, you know, cold and hot things since this just came out of the oven. But we'll see how it tastes. It looks good to me. Thanks for putting up with all our noise today, and I hope you enjoyed this moment with Breadhead.